Good morning, vinyl community. Hoping all of you had a great Thanksgiving. I'm doing a video this morning following on the thread sent by Elliott Crewes of Dawg Records, and that's Just Stop Here. When I saw that one, I thought, I have just the band in mind. Actually, there were a couple of them, but I picked one in particular that I thought would be rather simple for me to do, because I just received the other day the third record that would complete my Just Stop Here, because it's the replacement one of the series that I knew that would make my particular collection of them to just stop here, because that's the third one I wanted. And the band I'm talking about is the Grateful Dead. Now, they have a serious catalog. However, to me, and I think that what we're going to find of anybody that is going to partake of this thread is that it's going to be very subjective, because everybody's feelings on different albums are going to be different. But for in choosing the Grateful Dead, this is what I've come up with. I've come up with the three that satisfy me as far as my collection. And I'll show you the three that I chose. And I'm going with, first of all, to me the most important is having the first album, their self-titled The Grateful Dead. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this record. I have the 180 gram vinyl, produced for release by David Lemieux. To me, it's a good sounding record. If it's the best, I don't know, but I like it. It sounds good. I have a remix CD that has extra tracks. I think there's another release that has a 2 LP set with extra tracks on it. This one does not, but I like it a lot. And let me tell you the reason why I like it. I like this because this is the format in which I originally found this album. A little bit of history on this. You know, I always like to give the history on all these things. The town I came from in western Pennsylvania had one record store, okay? And back in 1967, before I found out about this, when it was first released, before I found out about it, this came out before Rolling Stone magazine was in existence. This came out in March of '67. Rolling Stone's first issue didn't come out till near the end of '67. So you go into a typical store, usually a tobacco store or some kind of little food chain that sold magazines. What did they have for serious music lovers? Nothing. Most of the magazines then were teen magazines that had features on the Beatles, the Monkees, the Dick Clark 5, that type of stuff. Nothing for serious music, except Downbeat magazine. Okay, I'm dragging on here. So Downbeat magazine has a review of Grateful Dead. because I used to get Downbeat magazine because I was interested in blues and jazz. So I bought Downbeat magazine. You know, I was 16 years old at the time. You know, that's the only magazine. So I get it, and there's a review of Grateful Dead magazine. And it's talking about this band from San Francisco, a jug band. They call them a jug band. Well, you know what? Looking into the history now of the Grateful Dead, before they were called the Grateful Dead, they actually were a jug band. And some of the history of those bands, some of the hippie bands, you know, San Francisco at the time, Jefferson Airplane, all them, you look back into their history. And a lot of those musicians came from jug bands. That was very popular in the early 60s. So they are folk bands. They were into folk music, you know, quasi-country music, jug bands. That's where a lot of those musicians came from. So anyhow, be that as it may, their write-up interested me in this. So I found out about them from Downbeat magazine, which typically covers mostly jazz stuff. So I went out and I looked for it. Record store didn't have it. They ordered it for me. I got it, and I loved it. I really love this album a lot. So I don't have the original, but I had, over the years, I'd gotten another copy, lost that one. I got this one now. I like it a lot. So, jump ahead a few years. This is 67. The next one that I really liked a lot, I had Ox Moxia, lost it somewhere. Wasn't really thrilled with it. I heard a lot, had CDs of their jamming stuff, you know. Well, they went through a lot of changes. And the next album I'm going to show you that I like a whole lot, Working Man's Dead. Now, what's happened during that time period was they went through some changes. Jerry Garcia got a steel guitar. Learned how to play a steel guitar. Of course, Jerry Garcia is great, one of the great guitar players of America, you know. Maybe he's like our Eric Clapton or something, I don't know. But he's a great guitar player. Learned how to play that. Something else big happened. Stephen Stills, another great guitar player, organist, multi-instrumentalist, you know. Stephen Stills spent about 4 months living with Mickey Hart on his farm. Well, he had a great influence on them because him and David Crosby were telling these guys, saying, listen, these guys are missing the boat on one thing. Your instrumentals, you know, your voices are an instrument too. So they started to listen up and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we should be working on our vocal harmonies a little bit. And that's why from Working Man's Dead on, you see a big change in the Grateful Dead's vocals. Big improvement, because they started to pay attention to what these other guys were telling them. And it really benefited them a lot. So now we have a big change in that. The other big change was that Robert Hunter, who wrote most of their lyrics, started traveling with them as a band. So their lyrics, their sound changed a little bit. Now, they started returning more to the, I don't know, more the folkish type sound that they had years before that. And, you know, these albums had some great songs on them. And really loved them a lot. Songs like Uncle John's Band, New Speedway Boogie, Cumberland Blues, Casey Jones, and of course the records, you know, I don't have to take them out and show you. All these are 180 gram vinyl. They're done on black. Beautiful, beautiful sounding records. Remixes and stuff I think are great. So I don't have to spend a lot of time on it. So the original one, Working Man's Dead, and I'll show you the third one, which I just got recently, which I thought completed for me, and that's why I can say I can just stop here, and that's American Beauty. Because with this, I'm finished. Now, one thing I noticed, having just got this, not having listened to it in a while, the style that they return to, they call it the Bakersfield sound. Well, because they're returning to the kind of the older folkish sound, and their vocals having improved, and the steel guitar and everything. Listening to this, what it reminds me a lot of, and some of you may be naysayers, but what it reminds me a lot of is music from Big Pink, especially songs like Candyman, and there's another one on here, Broken Down Palace. Boy, I'll tell you what, I think they may have been listening to a lot of the band. I really do. And not copying their sound, but a big influence there. Or maybe the band was listening to a lot of the Grateful Dead. I don't know. I don't think so, because the band was from Canada, and these guys weren't. But there's that same type of earthy Americana sound, and maybe that's why they called this American Beauty. But it's a great album. Great album. Box of Rain, Friend of the Devil, No Friend of the Devil is a Friend of Mine, Sugar Magnolia, beautiful songs on here. Truckin', that's a great boogie sound. Okay, now that one doesn't sound like the band, okay? I'm not saying it does, but there's some similarities on there, and it's great. It's a great album. So that's why, to me, and they did some other albums after this, were good. But I am satisfied with having American Beauty, Working Man Dead, and the Grateful Dead to say, I'm done. This is plenty for me. And there's so many other things. I have some CDs there that probably got like 90 minutes of jamming music on it. And I'll tell you what, I can play those in my car when I'm traveling cross country. And they're great to listen to. When I lived in western North Carolina, there was a station that from the college, they'd have 1 or 2 nights a week, they'd have the Grateful Dead Hour, and they got these tapes somewhere, probably bootleg tapes that they would play of Grateful Dead concerts, and it'd be nothing like an hour, it'd be like 2 songs. And you gotta love them. I have a couple friends that were Deadheads, and they've probably been to 20, 25 Grateful Dead concerts, and so they're like the American band. They're called the hardest working band in rock and roll, and God bless them. But for me, those 3 albums, I'm satisfied. That's great. I'm happy. Hope you follow Elliott Crewes' thread and come up with whatever albums make it for you for some band. That's it for today. Have a great weekend.